she had sex with you 3 times.
Yeah.
She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you. The second was at Epstein's mansion in New York, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
Is Prince Andrew a child predator, a victim of blackmail, or even extortion by false accusers? I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation. Today we're going to continue analyzing Prince Andrew's infamous 2019 BBC interview with Emily Matlis to determine if he's a child predator, a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's blackmail ring, or even an opportunistic false accuser. If you'd like to continue this series, let's get this video to 50,000 views. You can also decide who we analyze next on the channel by becoming a channel member, link in description.
Yeah. I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel that you were part of Epstein's public rehabilitation?
Oh, no. Funny enough, I don't. No. I mean, if he was doing, if that photograph was taken for that with that purpose in mind, then it doesn't equate to what actually happened.
So why wouldn't you announce this breakup when you got back? Why wouldn't you publicly explain what you'd done? Did you worry that he had something that could compromise you?
No. No.
Do you regret that trip?
Yes.
Do you regret the whole friendship with Epstein?
Now, still not. And the reason being is that the people that I met and the opportunities that I was given to learn, either by him or because of him, were actually very useful. He himself, not, as it were, as close as you might think. We weren't that close. So therefore, I mean, yes, I would go and stay in his house, but that was because of his girlfriend, not because of him.
In part 1 of this series, we analyzed Prince Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein to determine if he was being blackmailed by Epstein. And based on Prince Andrew's language alone in that video, it was pretty easy to tell that he had a very high, almost too high opinion of Epstein. And since this interview was done after Epstein's death, I doubt that it would be fear of blackmail which would compel Prince Andrew to be so complimentary of Epstein. In fact, in that video, I was so concerned about how complimentary Prince Andrew was about Epstein that it concerned me about how he viewed Epstein's victims. If he still feels this way about Jeffrey Epstein, how did he view those girls? How did he view Epstein's victims? Did he think they deserved what they got, or did he see them as subhuman, so there was no duty of care to them in the first place? It might seem like he's just a naive, doddering mama's boy, but they could be dangerous too. And the reason they're dangerous is because they see women as less than. And when you see someone as less than, you give yourself permission to do anything you want to them. So in today's video, we're going to analyze whether or not Prince Andrew is a different type of victim, a victim of extortion by a false accuser. Specifically, they're going to discuss Victoria Roberts in this segment of the interview.
Not, as it were, as close as you might think. We weren't that close. So therefore, I mean, yes, I would go and stay in his house, but that was because of his girlfriend, not because of him.
Was that visit, December of 2010, the only time you saw him after he was convicted?
Yes.
Did you see him or speak to him again?
No, that was that. Funny enough, 2010 was it. That was it, because I went. Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that if I was going to go and see him, I had to make sure that there was enough time between his release, because it wasn't something that I was going into in a hurry, but I had to go and see him. I had to go and see him. I had to
stay with him and stay in the house.
I could easily have gone and stayed somewhere else, but sheer convenience of being able to get a hold of the man was. I mean, he was in and out all over the place. So getting him in one place for a period of time to actually have a long enough conversation to say, look, these are the reasons why I'm not going to. And that happened on the walk.
July of this year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
When innocent people go on TV to deny allegations, they typically do three things. They deny the allegations categorically, they do it early, and they do it fairly briefly because they don't feel compelled to do a bunch of persuasion because they know they're telling the truth. On the other hand, guilty people tend to do a lot of talking, and that's because they're doing a lot of persuasion. And that happens naturally, whether or not you think your audience is believing you or not. You know you're lying, so you tend to overcompensate. Guilty people also stop short of categorically saying that they're innocent. They tend to simply imply their innocence, and that can be because it's hard to lie, or if they're a sophisticated liar, it can be deliberate, so that they have deniability if the truth ever does come out down the road. For example, they can say, I never said she was lying. I said that what she said wasn't technically true. And I think we saw a lot of this in my Fiona Harvey series. Finally, if a liar does make a denial at all, it is often hedged. And there's many ways to hedge a denial. We've seen many examples in my celebrities playlist, and we're going to see many examples in this very interview. So when I hit play, listen to Prince Andrew's denial.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm almost, in fact, I'm convinced that I was never in Tramps with her. There are a number of things that are wrong with that story. One of which is that I don't know where the bar is in Tramps. I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in Tramp whenever I was there.
Do you remember dancing at Tramp?
No. That couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then because the Duchess was away, we have a simple rule in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Words like therefore and because are logic words, and when you hear them, you know that someone's trying to persuade you. In Prince Andrew's case, if he had said, I did not have sex with Victoria Roberts, or I've never met Victoria Roberts, and then provided all of his persuasion about why he's telling the truth, that would be acceptable. The reliable denial on its own is sufficient as far as I'm concerned. But he didn't do that. He never made a denial at all. He jumped straight to the persuasion. Well, I don't know where the bar is at Tramps, so it couldn't have been me. I don't remember what happened, so it must not have happened. My wife was out of town, and we have this rule that we don't go out when one of us is out of town. Therefore, I wasn't out. In other words, he's implying he's innocent, but he hasn't said he's innocent. And then, of course, if we dig deeper into what he said, Victoria's story sounds a lot more plausible. She says on the day she went out with him, his wife was out of town, and his daughter had just had a birthday party at 4 or 5 p.m. that day. So he was free that night. There is one more thing Prince Andrew did to hedge his denial, and that was to say he doesn't remember. I don't recall. This is a common hedge we see in legal settings because it's really hard to disprove. The good news is we do have techniques in our toolbox to figure out if someone is lying when they say they don't remember something, or at least poke holes in their claim. And Emily Matlis is about to use one of those techniques now.
And then, because the Duchess was away, we have a simple rule in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been through Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. But as soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that. But I have no recollection of ever meeting or being in the company or the presence.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. Mm-hmm. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at, and I simply it was almost impossible for me to sweat, and it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid to say that there's a medical condition that says that I didn't do it. So therefore,
is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts, dined with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her on another date?
No.
Do you remember meeting her at all?
No.
Do you know you didn't meet her, or do you just not remember meeting her?
No, I have. I don't know if I've met her, but no, I have no recollection of meeting her.
His alibis that are based on persuasion are weak. He admits to us that someone, probably an attorney, had to refresh his memory once these allegations came up. Weren't you at Pizza Express with your daughter that day? And he admits that even the petty detail that he's clinging on to prove the story isn't true about him sweating could be true, because it was possible for him to sweat. He just didn't do it much. But what I really want to point out here is Emily Matlis's question about possibilities. She asked him, is it possible that you met Victoria Roberts on another day, not this particular day? Asking people about possibilities when they're claiming not to remember something, like meeting someone, is good because it puts them in a dilemma. If they don't remember the day, they can't say for sure whether or not they met the person in question. So Emily did a good job here getting him to at least expose himself as being unreasonable by saying, no, it's impossible I met her that day or any other day, even though I don't remember what happened that day. If this were to happen in a courtroom, he'd be impeached as a witness as far as a jury should be concerned. He says he doesn't remember, but then he also says it's impossible. It can't be both. So that's a good technique to determine if someone really doesn't remember something or if they're just conveniently not remembering it. But there are two other techniques which I prefer, and I'll go over those the next time we pause.
Because she was very specific. She described the dance that you had together in Tramp. She described meeting you. She was a 17-year-old girl meeting a senior member of the royal family.
Never happened.
She provided a photo of the
Yes.
two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself.
Your friend suggested that the photo is fake.
I think it's, from the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph. So it's very difficult to be able to prove it. But I don't remember that photograph ever being taken.
But it's possible that it was you with your arm around
That's
her
me, but whether that's my hand or whether that's the position, I have simply no recollection of the photograph ever being taken.
The world has now seen the photo that Virginia Roberts provided, taken by Epstein, we understand, in Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Well, here's the problem. I've never seen Epstein with a camera in my life.
I think it was Virginia Roberts' camera. She said a little Kodak one that she lent to Epstein. He took a photo, and your arm is round her waist.
I don't remember that photograph ever being taken. I don't remember going upstairs in the house, because that photograph is taken upstairs. And I'm not entirely convinced that, I mean, that is what I would describe as me in that picture. But we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her, whatever it is, left side.
You think that...
Because I have no recollection of that photograph ever being taken.
So why would somebody have put in another hand? You think it is you next to her in the photo?
Oh, it's definitely me. I mean, that's a picture of me. It's not a picture of, I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie. That's what I would describe as, those are my travelling clothes if I'm going overseas. So I've got plenty of photographs of me dressed in those sorts of, sort of kit, but not there.
Just to clarify, so you think that photo has been faked?
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
Whenever Prince Andrew is faced with a hard question, he simply doesn't remember. As I said the last time we paused, there's multiple ways to poke holes in this sort of psychological alibi if it is in fact fake. One way is to ask the possibility question, like Emily Matlis did the last time we paused. Another is to ask a bait question. For example, I understand you say this photo might not be genuine, but would there be any reason that Epstein logged taking that photograph into his private journal on that day? Or would it surprise you to know that there was another photo taken by another party of that same evening of you in Victoria? Do either of these things have to exist? Of course not. But by asking the question, you plant the possibility in the subject's head. And now, if there's someone like Prince Andrew, who is not a bold-faced liar, who wants to hedge everything to be safe if the truth does come out, you can expect them to respond in a way that covers all their bases. And typically this means that they give you more information. Well, maybe Epstein logged that because, well, possibly that did happen. Or, no, it wouldn't surprise me if someone else sent you a photograph because there were other people there. Can I see that other photo you have? Whereas an innocent person who knew this photo was fake would simply say, yeah, that would surprise me because it never happened. I would also expect them to be able to upfront say, yes, the photo's a fake. It's a Photoshop. It's AI. I don't know how you got it, but it's not real. That's not at all what Prince Andrew did. The same way he hedges his denials and hedges calling himself innocent, he also stopped short of calling the photo a fake. He said it can't be proven one way or the other. Once again, this is more persuasion and hedging, which is not what I expect from an innocent person. Unfortunately, Emily is not going to ask any of these bait questions, but we are about to see a contradiction. Emily doesn't pick up on it, but let's see if you can.
I've got plenty of photographs of me dressed in those sorts of, sort of kit, but not there.
Just to clarify, so you think that photo has been faked?
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
And you don't recollect having your hand round her waist in Ghislaine Maxwell's house on any occasion, even if it was a different date?
I'm terribly sorry, but if I, as a member of the royal family, and I have a photograph taken, and I take very, very few photographs, I am not one to, as it were, hug, and public displays of affection are not something that I do. So that's the best explanation I can give you. And I'm afraid to say that I don't believe that photograph was taken in the way that has been suggested.
Why would people not believe that you were there?
I'm sorry, why would?
I'm just trying to understand. There's a photo inside Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Ghislaine herself is in the background. Why would people not believe that you were there with her that night?
Well, they might well wish to believe it, but the photograph is taken upstairs, and I don't think I ever went upstairs in Ghislaine's house.
You're sure of that?
Yeah, because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor. It was as you came in the hall. So I don't remember ever going up there.
This is Club 33 in Disney World. It's some sort of exclusive club. I've never been there. This is the first time I've seen a photo of the dining room area of it, and I don't even know if it's real. So if someone photoshopped a picture of me there and said, "Hey, DD, this is you," I would not be able to say, "That's not me," because I've never been to Club 33, because I've never been there. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what room they put me in. So when Prince Andrew says that was taken upstairs in Ghislaine's house, but it couldn't have been me because I've never been upstairs in Ghislaine's house, how is he making that assessment? How does he know what the upstairs of Ghislaine's house looks like if he's never been there? Either some third party saw the photo and said, "Prince Andrew, this is the upstairs of Ghislaine's house," or he just revealed through leakage that he has been up there and that he does consider this a real photograph. And all of his excuses about why it's not him are just that, excuses. When I hit play, Prince Andrew is going to make yet another type of unreliable denial.
The photograph is taken upstairs, and I don't think I ever went upstairs in Ghislaine's house.
You're sure of that?
Yeah, because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor. It was as you came in the hall. So I don't remember ever going up there. I'm at a loss to explain this particular photograph. If the original was ever produced, then perhaps we might be able to solve it. But I can't.
You can say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Because she said in a legal deposition, a legal court document in 2015, she had sex with you 3 times. Yeah. She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you.
An appropriate level of concern is actually a sign of guilt. It's a way of persuading the audience that the allegations aren't a big deal. In other words, it's a way of minimizing. But that's not what I want to point out here. I want to point out the fact that he said, "I can categorically say I'm innocent, this didn't happen, X, Y, and Z." Saying things like "I can say," or "I've already said," or "I want to say" is a way of hedging a statement. And I'll just read you the rule from the card. The phrase "I want to say" or "I can say" simply expresses a desire to state something, or the ability to state something. Liars sometimes use it to preface lies, as it is technically true. And that's why we've seen so much hedging throughout this interview. But when Emily phrases the question as, can you say something categorically? He says, yes, of course. Of course I can say it. That doesn't make it true. If you think I'm reading too far into this, some of my earliest videos called people out for their weak denials using prefaces, and were 3 for 3 for them ending up guilty. And I don't think Prince Andrew is any different. When I hit play, he's going to use yet another preface. And the skill here is to catch it in real time, so see if you spot the preface he uses, and then think in your head, if I were interviewing him, what question would I ask as a follow-up to catch him out in his hedge, in his lie?
You can say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Because she said in a legal deposition, a legal court document in 2015, she had sex with you 3 times. Yeah. She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you. The second was at Epstein's mansion in New York.
That is a date in April, I believe. Is that correct?
She said it was a month or so later.
Yeah. Well, I think that the date that we have for that shows that I was in Boston, or I was in New York the previous day, and I was at a dinner for the Outward Bound Trust in New York, and then I flew up to Boston the following day. And then on the day that she says that this occurred, they'd already left to go to the island before I got back from Boston. So I don't think that could have happened at all. There
was a witness there, Johanna Stolberg, who says that you did visit the house in that month.
I probably did. I don't think, on one of the weird things, I was staying with the, because of what I was doing, I was staying with the Consul General, which is further down the street on Fifth. So I wasn't staying there. I may have visited, but no. Definitely no activity.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house when she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house.
Yes.
Once in New York a month or so later at Epstein's mansion, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
Why would she be saying those things?
By the way, saying no to all of it is not the same thing as saying it didn't happen. It's a weak denial. Also, I want to draw your attention to how quickly he folded once Emily pointed out that there was another witness. And that's why I think he'd be a great candidate for bait questions. Even if the witness didn't exist, Emily could have used that technique to get him to fold on the photo or other things that were in question in this interview. She only did it this time because she actually had the witness. And that's why bluffing is so important. All right, I'm going to hit play again. The preface hasn't come up yet, so don't worry, you haven't missed it, but it's about to.
Once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no to all of it.
Why would she be saying those things?
We wonder exactly the same, but I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
She made these claims in a US deposition.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying you don't believe her? She's lying?
That's a very difficult thing to answer, because I'm not in a position to know what she's trying to achieve. But I can tell you categorically, I don't remember meeting her at all. I do not remember a photograph being taken. And I've said consistently and frequently that we never had any sort of sexual contact whatever.
She spoke about you outside the court in August of this year.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I quote, "He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it."
And the answer is nothing.
So if Virginia Roberts is watching this interview, what is your message to her?
A good way to tell something as a preface is if you can say something absurd after it and it's technically true. For example, I want to say I've been to the moon. That doesn't mean I've been to the moon. I can categorically tell you I've been to the moon. Doesn't mean I've been to the moon. It just means I have the ability to tell you right now through my microphone that I've been to the moon. As I've said, I've been to the moon. Doesn't make it true. But me saying I've said it is technically true. And that's how prefaces work. And often you'll see sophisticated liars use them. If you've watched any of the recent congressional hearings, you probably heard a lot of that. Speaking of Congress, if you want to see me analyze their investigation of Epstein's death and my analysis of another friend of his who was accused, who is a much more sophisticated liar than Prince Andrew, click the playlist on your screen now. Until next time, stay true.